You're working as an MRV expert for SUTRI NAMA and INDOBUS. Can you please share some information about your work and your background, just to let us know what you're practically involved in?
Yeah, I think I would start with my background first. I have a background in civil engineering. I did my bachelor and master degree in civil engineering with specialization in transport engineering. And during my master topics, and which start pick my interest there, and then afterward I work in the Ministry of Planning, facilitating the subnational government to calculate and also report their emission reduction, to so prolong my interest there. And then afterward, it's bring me here in GIZ Indonesia as an advisor for urban and regional development advisor at SUTRI NAMA and INDOBUS. So I think if I can, I will briefly introduce my project to give you all more context about the project.
And I think you brought a slide on that. So
Yes.
Anna, I think, starts sharing it now.
Yeah, so the SUTRI NAMA INDOBUS project aims to transform urban transportation in Indonesia into a sustainable low carbon sector. We have several approaches, one of which is monitoring and evaluation, where we develop MRV system for emission reduction, particularly for the BRT proposal project that we also support for our pilot cities. And next slide, please. So we have 6 pilot cities, and 5 of these pilot cities, we already completed the GHG emission reduction calculation, and Surabaya is still ongoing. So based on that 5 study cases, we also develop a standardized methodology to calculate the potential emission reduction from the BRT project. That's what I've been doing now.
Okay, so we can stop sharing the slides here again. Thank you for that. So that's quite an interesting project, and so interesting to see the various cities. I have not been in any of them, but so I think it's very useful on the ground also to understand related to the emission reductions, also to link to the donors' interest. I think this project is funded by 2 different entities, isn't it?
Yeah, so the SUTRI NAMA is the main technical component. It is funded by NAMA facility previously, or now it's Mitigation Action Facility, where the original fund is from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action from Germany, and also Industrial Ministry from UK. And then for the INDOBUS as an embedded technical component, we are funded by SECO, the Swiss Economic Cooperation.
It's great to see so many international involved. So let's get to my second question. So I think you just briefly introduced yourself, but so you have been involved in designing the MRV system. So what kind of challenges did you face there in the 5 pilot cities, and maybe even in the 6th one that you mentioned, Surabaya? And how did you overcome these challenges?
I think for the challenges, most of it, first and foremost is the need of adequate data in terms of availability and data quality in Indonesia. It's become a challenge for all of us in Indonesia. We have to look really really hard for that, and for our project, because we are calculating the project in the preparation phase. So we fortunate enough to do our data collection and also modeling for our data. But in terms of implementation, people need to really look into the data and collect themselves. And also, I think the second part, the challenges is that the many transport sector stakeholders has not been exposed to the MRV in general. So when we met with the official, we have to be very clear and also brief them. That's where the capacity development, I think, play parts to develop that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I guess that's quite interesting description. I understand you're working with transport people in cities. Yeah, so I assume on the city level here, so both the knowledge as well as the link to the greenhouse gas emissions, which is also a global environmental challenge. So it's quite far.
Yeah, sometimes people think it's a different sector. So because it is the transport sector, sometimes they don't have their knowledge to connect between the transport sector and the environment sector. But yeah, that's where the conversation begin and start.
So when it comes to calculating the emissions, I think the question of data is quite important. And I think in the course, it's very nicely explained how to calculate emissions bottom up and top down. So can you explain, based on your cases and experience, which data you need for the calculation? How did you collect it?
Yeah, if Marlene can show the presentation, I think, for this so that you can see it clearly.
It comes. Slide 5, I think, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think for the data calculation, particularly because it is a bottom-up approach, so there's a lot of data that needs to be collected. And this is the data that we need. As I previously mentioned, we are, from my case, from our project, because we are doing the preparation stage. So a lot of the data came from the transport modeling, such as the BRT data. It usually comes from the preparation or the feasibility study that we had, and basically from the data model that we had. So we had for BRT, we can determine the fleet, the specific fuel energy, passenger kilometer. We can get that through the modeling data, but the origin modes data, that's where the challenge play into part, I think, because we need to do data collection for that. And yeah, so the average vehicle occupancy, we usually do data collection on site. So we have survey, but others, it's usually we have in Indonesia, we have a data on a specific fuel consumption that produced by the national government, as well as emission factor.
So this comes from national level data that has been collected and tailor-made to the cities.
Sometimes we also look into the statistic data, like number of cars, ownership, and so on. We can look further into the statistical agency that we had. We had in national level, and also we had in the local level, of provincial and the city level. So use that as well.
So you said you made a mix of various data collection methodologies, and so are you? Let me dive a little bit deeper in here. Yeah. So are you then facing also data quality issues? Do you come across these type of aspects where you see, okay, maybe the data does not fit to each other, and how are you handling this these challenges?
We usually compare. I think a lot of that scenario happen in the secondary data. So like the car ownership, we have different car ownership or discontinued car ownership. So we have a record for this year, but not on the previous 2 year and so on. So there's a bit discontinued there. For that, I think a lot of comparison needed. So we had a lot of other data source so that we can compare and make sense. Oh, this is the right right data. This is the makes sense. The data that makes sense. But for the survey data, we usually collaborate as well with the local university and so on, so that we also collect their insight and their local wisdom, if we can say that. So we know that, oh, in Bandung, this is the normal number of car ownership or the number of trip that usually happen and so on. So we did validation and comparison.
Yeah, very, very, very important, I think, and very smart to involve the local stakeholders here.